Hey YouTube, what's up social media land? Thank you so much for tuning into ReligionWinked TV. We're going to continue with, I believe, part 3 or 4 of Black women in abusive power, money, influence. Like women like Olivia Pope, mom, sister, brother, dad. This isn't just a female thing, and it's not just a black or white thing. Any race can definitely be affected by abusive power and control. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and just start reading. I'll try to keep it about 10 minutes so it's easy for you to follow along. And we left off talking about the coercion and threats of this abusive power. And there's a tactics of violence and nonviolence relationships. We said that there's intimidation on this wheel of power and control, emotional abuse, isolation, minimizing, denying, and blaming, using children and pets as a shield or exploitation, using or abusing privilege, economic abuse, and coercion and threats. Okay. And one of the last things we said under coercions and threats is that at its most effective, the abuser creates intimidation and fear through unpredictable and inconsistent behavior. Absolute control may be sought by any of 4 types of sadists: explosive, enforcing, tyrannical, and spineless sadists. The victims are at risk of anxiety, dissociation, depression, shame, low self-esteem, and suicidal ideations. So now on to intimidations. Abused individuals may be intimidated by the brandishing of weapons, destructions, their property, or other things, or use of gestures or looks to create fear. Threatening to use a gun or simply displaying the weapon is a form of intimidation and coercion and control. Economic abuse. An effective means, you've seen it. A lot of people threaten, this kind of intimidation with weapons, not just with guns, but knives, um, threaten to take your car away, threaten to take your house away, threaten to, this is the intimidation is what it is. Whatever they can hold over your head or whatever they can make you fear with, this is what they'll do. Economic abuse. Let me make sure I watch the time. Okay. An effective means of ensuring control and power over another is to control their access to money. One method is to prevent the abuse from getting or retaining a job. Controlling their access to money can also be done by withholding information and access to family income. Taking their money, requiring the person to ask for money, giving them an allowance, or filing a power of attorney or conservatorship, particularly in the case of economic abuse of the elderly. Again, it can happen in any relationship at any given time. Emotional abuse. Hey, how are you? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Emotional abuse includes name calling, playing mind games, putting the victim down, or humiliating the individual. The goals are to make the person feel bad about themselves, feel guilty, or think that they are crazy. Isolation. Another element, well, let's just go back for a moment. With the emotional abuse including, there's a lot of name calling, playing mind games, putting the victim down, dragging, roasting, humiliating the individual. The goals are to make the person feel bad about themselves, feel guilty, or think that they are crazy. That's emotional abuse. Isolation. Another element, this is pretty much psychological control. They isolate the victim from the outside world, and sometimes the victim can live with the people themselves, with family, with friends, with spouse, and still be isolated from their family, from their friends, from their spouse. and also isolated from the rest of the people that they live in a household with. Then you have like minimizing, denying, and blaming. The abuser may deny the abuse occurred to attempt to place the responsibility for their behavior on the victim. Minimizing concerns or the degree of the abuse is another aspect of this mind control. So they find a lot of different ways to use mind control and to get you to be manipulated in the mind. They also use children and pets for exploitation, sympathy, empathy, and apathy. Children may be used to exert control by the abuser, threatening to take the children or making them feel guilty about the children. You know, you see it in relationships. Oh, when I leave, I'm taking the kids, and you're never gonna see the kids, kind of thing again. It could include harassing them during the visitation, or using the children to relay messages, getting them, like involved in the fight. Another controlling tactic is abusing pets. Pets are like children to some people, so they would abuse the pet in the middle of an argument, or withhold the pet from the other person, kind of things like that. Using privilege. Using privilege means that the abuser defines the roles in the relationship, makes the important decisions, treats the individual like a servant, and acts like the master of the castle. So now we have in the workplace, there's a power and a control model, and it has been developed for the workplace, divided into the following categories. You have overt actions, covert actions, emotional control, isolation, economic control, tactics. I told you about the economic control in the last video. You should watch that. That's a personal testimony on my last job. They have tactics, restrictions, management, and privilege. Okay, let's see. Bullying. An essential prerequisite of bullying is the perception by the bully or by others of an imbalance of social and physical power. So then you have what's called workplace psychopaths. They deal with entry, which is the psychopath will use highly developed social skills and charm to attain the employment. The assessment is the psychopath will weigh you up according to your usefulness. If you're useful to the person, you can be in the group or in the clique, because usually at work there's a lot of cliques that goes on at work. And then you could be recognized as either a pawn or has some informal influence and will be easily manipulated, or a patron who has a formal power and will be used by the psychopath to protect against attacks. So there's manipulation. The manipulation pretty much is the psychopath will create a scenario of psychopathic fiction. Hey, to the two that's watching, thank you and God bless you. Where positive information about themselves and negative disinformation about others will be created. When your role as a part of a network of pawns and patrons will be utilized, and you will be groomed into accepting the psychopath's agenda. That's kind of funny here, because this lady jumped on my page and she put a link on my channel, and it's in my comments. I forget which video it's on, but I clicked on the link and it was a documentary about Mona Simone, and that woman was saying in there how Mona Simone is grooming people. And I'm sitting here, then I came over here to finish reading the rest of what I was reading, because I just want to deal with different personalities that we see out in the world and how people are behaving and what that disorder could possibly be. And for them to say that manipulation, you will be groomed into accepting the psychopath's agenda. So whatever the psychopath's agenda is, they will groom people into their agenda. And I thought that was kind of weird. So when, like with the Holy Spirit, God will lead you certain places. Out the blue, this woman was like, hey, oh, it might be on the Sweet Ma documentary, because she said, I did one on Mona and I'm going to do one on, she said, I think she said, for the purposes of this video, FIGH, babe, right? And I said, oh, I went and checked the video out. And the lady got skills. I think her name is Oh No. And go check out her videos. She only got like 62 subscribers. She got people over there saying Tasha K sent them or whatever. I'm not into it. I watched the video and I heard this woman say that she's over there grooming people. I said, wow. And it's kind of confirming, not that Mona Simone is a master manipulator, but master manipulators groom their people to accept their agenda. And I remember Mona Simone did a video on YouTube, narcissists and sociopaths. So this all kind of ties together. You just have to listen to what people are really saying and just pay attention to them. And I mean, in this video, she had pointed out the fact that Mona said she can't stand Cardi B. So how would she really get a interview with Cardi B? And I was like, okay, let me get back to confrontation. Things are starting to add up for me on these YouTube streets, and I kind of see it for what it really is and what it has always been. Confrontation. The psychopath will use techniques of character assassination, as we see it in mutual combat and on these YouTube streets, to maintain his or her agenda. And you will be either discarded as a pawn or used as a patron. See, there's a lot of discarding of friendship. We have Mona Simone and Sweet Ma just broke up. Everybody lovey-dovey, calling everybody boo, going to everybody's channel, taking pictures, hooking up with people. And a lot of this character assassination is going on. And a lot of people are being used as a pawn or as a patron. So ascension. Now, me and my daughter is sitting here with me, and I know a little bit about this before I even read it, because what is the immortal cities? What is that? City of Bones. Yeah, City of Bones, Immortal Instruments, or something like that. I don't watch witchcraft movies, but that movie stuck. I just watched that movie, and I know that people ascend and they descend. I know Jesus ascended or Christ ascended, so I know what kind of ascension is. And I'm almost certain it's going to say here that these people want to rise above, be grandiosity, be the center of attention, set up on a pedestal, and everybody idolize them and praise them and worship them. Your role as a patron in the psychopath's quest for power will be discarded, and the psychopath will take for himself, herself, a position of power and prestige. There, I knew it was coming. Prestige is a form of distinguishedness, like dignitary, dignified, like above. You're the queen and everybody else is a peasant. Kind of attitude from anyone who once supported them. So, it goes on to some institutional abuse. I want to read here what it says about human trafficking, because a lot of times we realize, or we think of human trafficking as people taking women from one country to another country to be sex slaves and things like this. But I'm always looking at it as human trafficking can be just to manipulate somebody's mind, to get them to that whole agenda, to believe the narrative that's not true, or to walk in a way that's unfair, that'll cause sufferation once you follow this person. I listen to what human trafficking is, and see if any humans have been hijacked, have been mind controlled, have been sexually perverted to be led away sexually, like on this, living by these teachings where love is love and love everything and ooh la 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 la, whatever, kumbaya kind of thing sexually. Everybody just love everything. But check this out. The use of coercion by per- perpetrators and traffickers involves the use of extreme control. Again, this control is going to be here. Listen. And it's not like you're hijacking them from one city, but you're just hijacking them from one live chat to another live chat to another social media platform to another to another to another. Perpetrators expose the victim to high amounts of psychological stress induced by threats, fear, and physical and emotional violence, which we see. Tactics of coercion are reportedly used in three phases of trafficking: recruitment, initiation, and indoctrination. That's some damn Christians. Y'all indoctrinated with some stuff that just hijacked you from the kingdom of heaven to the body of Christ to church, so far away from God, still following other gods and everything else. Come back home, God is saying. So there's three forms of trafficking here: recruitment, initiation, and indoctrination. Do you see this out in the world? And like I said, it's not a physical, like I thought that Jasmine Ealing, a lady in a nightclub in Atlanta, I thought she was going to be taken like the Liam Neeson movie by that first Caucasian European man she was with in the very beginning. And that's where I see her take like something out her mouth and look at it. And I did a video on it. And then she looks like, oh, she's making a gagging little motion with her mouth, right? And it almost looks like that's who tried to drug her, and probably the effects took on by the time she got to the black guy. But there's some master manipulation going on in the world, and people don't look at it for what it is. You only see the surface of it. Everybody running around here like a chicken with their head cut off, going damn crazy, offended by everything, ready to argue about all things. But I sit back. I said, wow, is this me? I look up, I ask God first, because that's the one, if you following the fruit of the Spirit, you on the side of God. If you doing a whole bunch of other stuff, it say like 17 things in the book of Galatians chapter 5, verse 16 through 26, that you're doing ungodly. But there's godly people that's dealing with some of these disorders right here. There's ungodly people that's dealing with some of these disorders right here. It is not wrong to put the disorders out here and to show people that human trafficking is going down on these YouTube streets. People are allowing themselves to be hijacked mentally by the bullshit these YouTube creators and content creators is feeding them. Just look at it. And when I watched that video today of that young lady breaking down Mona Simone, I said, wow, I'm not the only one sitting around just trying to make some sense of everything. Oh no, go check her out. She got less than 100 subs, probably was 62 when I was over there, and this video had like 678 views. And I said, wow, she said when the master manipulator wants people to do what they do, they groom them. And we all know Miss Mona Simone told everybody to change their name to Brain, and she offers some other advice over there. And I'm like, wait a minute. And then it says it's grooming here. So you guys have to be the judge of it. Other platforms, judge my platform. Just look at it for what it is, yo. We are women. Women are out here abusing power, money, stature, influence, recognition, fame, all to be accepted, all to be heard, all to be a part of this clique or this group or this, I don't know, compound of YouTube. It's crazy, but hear what it has to say. It goes on. It keeps going on. It goes on. During the initiation phase, traffickers use foot in the door techniques of persuasion to lead their victims into various trafficking industry. Trafficking industry is just not the sex industry. There's other ways people are being trafficked. What's that movie? Wasn't it called Traffic? When no. It went no. Catherine Zeta-Jones and her husband Michael. Remember Traffic with the little girl? She was getting high in the bathroom, and she had to hide the stuff. Remember? And they kept. You remember that movie? You put me onto that movie. Anyway, y'all know the movie Traffic, right? So anyway. There's different ways to traffic people and traffic things in this world besides sex. As we hear human trafficking is being done for work. Human trafficking is being done for sex as we know it. Human trafficking is being done to like muse to get drugs from one country to America. Human trafficking is being done for so many things. So, during the initiation phase, traffickers use foot in the door techniques of persuasion to lead their victims into various trafficking industries. This manipulation creates an environment where the victim becomes completely dependent upon the authority of the trafficker. Traffickers take advantage of family dysfunction, homelessness, which is a lot on YouTube. There's a lot of homelessness with big YouTubers, and I like I said, I'm not just in Black YouTube. I'm on YouTube, and I see people, white, Black, Asian, old, young, people deal with homelessness, and some people are monetized, and some people are not monetized. But the trafficker play on the weakness of these people. And it goes on to say that the traffickers take advantage of the family dysfunction. We see a lot of family dysfunction on YouTube as well and in the world, within our own homes, homelessness, and a history of child abuse to psychologically manipulate women and children into the trafficking industry. So this is more indicative to the child abuse and the sex trafficking, slave trade that's going on. But it goes on to say, the goal of the trafficker is to turn a human being into a slave. The goal of a trafficker is to turn a human being into a slave. Do you know anybody that abused their power to the point where the money, the influence, their platforms, their callings, their gifts to turn people into slaves? We're dealing with I got the title Black Women on there because I want to catch your attention. I'm talking to Black women, but it's not just Black women I'm talking to. This can fit men, this can fit women, this can fit old, young, white, Black, Asian, Latino, Hindu, Allah, just the Muslims or Christian. It doesn't matter. You got people abusing their power, their wealth, their influence, their money to make people slaves. To do this, perpetrators employ tactics that can lead to the psychological consequences of learned helplessness. People learn how to be helplessness. That woe is me. They get so beat down by the attacker and so manipulated in the mind. It's a helplessness that comes about them. For the victims, not for the perpetrator. This is for the victims, where they sense that they no longer have any autonomy, like any disclosed identity, like it's all open, it's out there in the open, everybody know, or control over their lives. Traffickers may hold their victims captive, expose them to large amounts of alcohol and drug use, and it's like a mind sedation that's going on over these YouTube streets and in the world. A lot of people aren't being abused physically with drugs and alcohol, but in the case of sex trafficking, or even a man wanting to take advantage of a woman like Dominique Williams did that night in the club, if he was the one allegedly to give her the drug, men will try to put women in that state so they can take advantage of them. Right? It's always about weakening a person's mind so that they're not in control to make the right decisions. So it says, and they keep them in isolation. We talked about isolation earlier, and we talked about it in the last video, or withhold food or sleep from them. So this is like a form of human torture as well. I say to hold food and sleep from. I know a lot of people, we work, we on these YouTube streets, but you can't tell me everybody out in YouTube is eating right, sleeping right. Some people feel a little learned helplessness because of the way the YouTube creators make content creators make the subs feel, and the way some of the subs and supporters make the content creator feel. This is going both ways. The isolation, oh, you single everybody out, try to intimidate that person and control that person, make that person feel weak. No, listen to what this is saying. During this time, the victim often begins to feel the onset of depression, guilt, and self-blame, anger and rage, two separate things, and sleep disturbances, PTSD. Numbing, that's your hands and fingers go numb, and extreme stress. Under these pressures, the victim can fall into hopeless mental state of learned helplessness, something I think our community deals with on a greater scale here. Listen to what a learned helplessness. Listen to what this is saying, people. Children are, and we're almost done here. Children are especially vulnerable to these developmental and psychological consequences of trafficking because they are so young. In order to gain complete control of the child, traffickers often destroy physical and mental health of the children through persistent physical and mental and emotional abuse. Stockholm syndrome is mentioned here. It's also a common problem for girls while they are trafficked, which can hinder them from both trying to escape and moving forward in psychological recovery programs. So this is about it, guys. The report goes on to say that oppression, the thing I talk about most over here on this channel, free human slavery, because human slavery is oppression, no matter how you look at it. Slavery of a human being is oppression. It's the exercise of authority or power in a burdensome, cruel, and unjust manner. Then it goes on to talk about serial killers and things of that nature. But I haven't ran into that on YouTube in my personal life, the serial killing part. So I think that's cool right there. I'm going to go ahead and end it. This wraps up this series. I want to come back talking about some other stuff. I appreciate the one person watching. Thank God for the one person where 2 or 3 are gathered in his name. He's in the midst of us. There's nothing no devil can do to us at this point in time. Go ahead and enjoy the rest of your night. God bless you. Shalom. And I thank you for watching. Oh, goodbye. Thank you.